What's up, family? So I appreciate you guys for rocking with me and just checking out this video. Give this video a big thumbs up if you got some value from it. However, I just want to have an authentic conversation with you guys in regards of the historical record breaking, as you guys see down in the title. Joe Biden broke the single day pardon record. So within clemency, he did 1,500 people, five over Barack Obama did historically in his time when he granted pardons in clemency. Sorry, family. However, Joe Biden is pardoning 39 individuals, and he's also granting um, clemency to 1,500 people. Okay. But I find it very interesting because after Joe Biden received backlash from both parties, Democrat and Republican, for pardoning his son, which we didn't really care. If you're going to pardon your child and you really care about your son, that's totally fine. But don't sit there and say no one's above the law, and you operate off this high moral ground, and then you're basically like, no, I'm not going to pardon my son. He's going to go through the process of the court system, and whatever the verdict may be. But then the hypocrisy within it, he pardoned his son and absolved him from all the things that he may have potentially been prosecuted from and held accountable. And when it comes to the justice system, right? So it's the hypocrisy part that really the American people isn't liking. It's not the fact that he did pardon his son, but I find it very, very, very weird, and I feel like this should be investigated around the timing of this. And also, do you guys think, and I'm asking you guys down in the comments, do you guys think that he's trying to do this in regards of granting clemency to 1,500 people and pardoning 39 people to try to trump over for him pardoning his son? Because in my opinion, this doesn't absolve from his hypocrisy, and it doesn't absolve from the simple fact that he pardoned his son, which will be the biggest that Trump, in my opinion, out of these pardons that he's trying to give and granting clemency to 1,500 people. So if he thinking, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do it bigger, because the whole trunk of it was, okay, I pardon my son, and this was just a movement that I was initiating and pardon people in the first place. We not buying that narrative, so don't even go with that. But I want you guys to check this video out in regards of CNN giving their take on it and how they looking at things in regards of the matter. Check this out.
News this morning, President Biden putting his pardon power to use, just announcing he is commuting the sentences for over 1,500 people, including pardons for 39 people convicted of nonviolent crimes. To put it in context, this move is seen as the largest single-day act of clemency in modern history. This big unveil, of course, comes on the heels of Biden's full and unconditional pardon of his son Hunter that got so much attention. This is likely to as well. CNN's Arlette Saenz has much more for us from the White House this morning. Tell us more, Arlette.
Well, Kate, President Biden is using one of the remaining tools available to him in his final days in office to grant clemency to a wide swath of individuals. The president saying that this boils down to trying to give people a second chance. Now, in all, the president is commuting the sentences of nearly 1,500 individuals, the single largest act of clemency in a single day. To put that in perspective, the previous record was set by President Barack Obama when he commuted the sentences for 330 individuals in the final days that he was in office.
Okay, family. So you guys got that. Now, I just want to add some context, but also add a different perspective in regards to what you guys just heard. I did a little bit of research, just digging, and from my recollection of it and how I perceived it is, in 1994, Joe Biden had a crime bill, right? And the individual who fixed it was Donald Trump when he announced, what's it called? I forgot what's it called. Give me 1 second, family, because I did a little bit of research. It was Donald Trump's First Step Act. Okay, so the crime bill, just to add a little bit of value, which was Joe Biden's bill in 1994, was to tackle mass incarceration. For massive incarceration, I should say, and to tackle big crime, because crime was running rampant in regards of trying to reduce the crime rate. He created this bill in 1994 in which it was a 3-strike system. So, and also potentially, just to add more context to how extreme and how amplified the massive incarceration, and how ambitious he was within this bill, and how um not only ambitious but also the tone of this bill is Joe Biden also put the death penalty on the table as a possibility or as a way of prosecution, I should say, in regards of this 1994 crime bill. That's how extreme and that's the tone in which they were standing on business and wasn't playing no games. However, the downside of it, because there was a good side, tackling crime bigger than ever, definitely drugs and crime and criminals. That was the biggest mantra within the whole movement of that 1994 crime bill that Joe Biden, advocated for and was passed. But the downside is, how is it going to be conducted on a local state level? And that's when the biasness came in, because if you guys don't know, African Americans or black people were treated unfairly in regards of this whole system, or I should say, treated disproportionately. And not even just to take it a step further, it's not even just black people, right? Because I look at everything objectively. It was just the communities, the low income to poor communities in regards that didn't have many resources. It really hound down on those communities very, very extremely. So, however, he generalized the sense of mass incorporation and advocating for it, but he didn't add the workings and within the ramifications within the local state level and how it should be implemented. So the local states took it in regards of their own matter, which may necessarily defeat the whole purpose of what Joe Biden was advocating for, because he didn't put policies in place from a local state level so everyone could be on one accord. So biasness took its place. So for example, 1994, there may have been drug, and to be more specific, crack, right? There may have been, crack that may have been sold from drug dealers and so forth, which they were really honing in on tackling and reducing crimes and reducing criminals on the street, being detrimental to the communities. That's fine and all. But what about now, as things have become more controversial and things have been more innovative? How do you tackle now this modern time, this present time? How do you tackle the crime now within this present time, with social media being bigger than ever, TikTok and individuals also criminalizing themselves on a social media standpoint? It's not just on the streets no more. So individuals who may have been incarcerated, being held accountable for their 2000s, within the 2000s era of them selling crack or being in possession of some type of drug, until also, let's use that example of a local drug, right? Crack. 2000, someone sold crack, a drug. They were honing in on mass incarceration. Really, Joe Biden was putting funding in regards to making more prisons and more prison cells and so forth. But the thing is, and he was also trying to say, let's not use the prison system in regards of retaliation, but let's use it in a way of rehabilitation. However, if a local state tends to find someone in a possession of drugs and selling it as a form to make profit, and then and you have a 3-strike system with regards in this 1994 bill, and their first time offense, they're getting hound on to make an example of them, but also is becoming personalized because that state is being biased on how they are tackling certain crimes and not using processes in regards of ramifications that wasn't put in place on a case-by-case circumstance situation, also utilizing the 3-strike system. Joe Biden didn't put nothing in place in regards to policies. So yes, the states had a 3-strike system, but they took it in regards of their own matter in which they believe, and they personalized it in which they believe the verdict should be. So if someone was in possession of crack in 2000s and they got life, when does it become outdated? Because in this present time, things have been more controversial than ever, and it's not necessarily drug running rampant, but people are committing crime within this media age. People are committing crime more innovatively, unfortunately, when it comes to media and scamming and so forth. So do those individuals that got arrested for crack in the early 2000s, wouldn't you consider that outdated? And also them getting life on their first offense, don't you consider that's too extreme? I'm all for rehabilitation, putting things in regards of changing their life in a directory and changing the trajectory of their life and giving them resources within a rehabilitation standpoint to make them realize that there's better alternatives in life, and you can do better and there's more opportunities. Because let's be real here, in low to poor income communities, they're in a flight or fight mode, and they're in survival mode for the most part, trying to make money. So however, I get the rehabilitation standpoint. From a rehabilitation standpoint, instead of using a possession of drugs to try to gain income, let's change that trajectory. Even though you're going to be held accountable because that's still a crime and you're going to do the time. But while you do the time, you are exposed to these resources in which you don't have to do those things which you felt like you had to succumb to, even though you broke a crime in the local community that you was in, that was necessarily maybe, or on and so forth, low income to poor community that you would succumb to, right? So Trump came in with the first with his crime bill, and basically Trump came in with the First Step Act and basically modified and say, look, those individuals that that were sentenced to life on a first time nonviolent crime because of Joe Biden's 1994 crime bill, and I will show you guys an example of this later on throughout this video. But he said, look, let's not be biased, and let's not hold individuals a scream just for their first time offense of being in possession of marijuana. That's a non-violent. They just in the possession of marijuana. So let's be more fair in the policies that Trump put in place for these states to follow suit. Instead of following suit of their own merit, it can actually be on one accord for the bill that's passed. So that was Joe Biden's ignorance. Not saying that Joe Biden's bill was all bad. That's my point. But I want you guys to check out in regards of more things that CNN had to say. Check this out.
President in his statement had said, quote, America was built on the promise of possibility and second chances. As president, I have the great privilege of extending mercy to people who have demonstrated remorse and rehabilitation, restoring opportunity for Americans to participate in daily life and contribute to their communities. Now, it comes as President Biden has faced significant pressure to grant more clemency in his closing days in office. There are some who are pushing for him to take several dozen inmates off of federal death row. But this pressure for more acts of clemency really has heightened since President Biden had issued that full and unconditional pardon of his son, Hunter Biden, which really drew fierce backlash from Republicans and Democrats in the president's own party.
And I just find it very weird, like I said, that all of a sudden he pardoned his son and he's so compassionate now. That's not going to absolve you from the simple fact that you lied and said you wouldn't pardon your son and no one's above the law and you did it. But the point I'm making is now, which I find, and I want to ask you guys down in the comments, is now you're letting people off that committed heinous crimes and to the point where they're on death row. If you're on death row, you had to do some wild stuff, bro. And that even included, just to add some more context before you guys see the video, in regards of not just me saying it, but also individuals on legacy media saying it, and it has been questioned from a White House an individual that's part of the press, questioning the spokesperson, Karine Jean-Pierre, who speaks for Joe Biden for the most part, because we all know that Joe Biden is not competent. We done seen him try to articulate. We didn't see him struggle articulating himself. So he hides behind spokespersons or statements. And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, in my honest opinion, and this is all speculation because I can't substantiate this point, but we all know that Joe Biden is not writing these statements. And at the end of the day, who is getting off and who is getting what and how and why what incentivized Joe Biden to do these 1,500 clemency and pardon 39 people in the first. So what's the deals on the back end? That's the real question, because we know how corrupt the Democratic Party can be and the whole establishment in regards of, oh, we give you something, we want something back. So, and it's corrupt. And I really hope that Trump investigates. But in my opinion, he's trying to run away. That's why he's probably pardoning anybody he drank coffee with to excuse himself, or he won't get caught up in the corruptness that the establishment, which is the Democratic Party, have been doing for so long. And they've been so used to doing it that now they're getting held accountable. So now they're running rampant, shaking in their boots before Trump get in office, trying to cover up the layers of corruptness, because Trump is going to be transparent with the people and really seeking to regain trust within the people, we the American people, and the government. And Joe Biden definitely don't want things to be exposed, right? But he pardoned a judge who basically within the juvenile system gave kids over to a juvenile system, for profit juvenile system, just to get kickbacks in the returns, kickbacks in return for sending these kids to this system. So the judge profited off of. So it wasn't in regards of operating out of genuine trying to hold young individuals accountable, kids, and letting them know and have the full understanding that they're breaking the law and knowing how to conduct themselves in the right manner, and also conduct themselves amongst their community and be an asset to their community and not a liability. But this judge was prosecuting on the basis of what can I get and what can I get out of this in regards of how do I benefit from this for personal gain. I want you guys to check this out. But I also want you to see how CNN, because it's the last video of how CNN justified Joe Biden's 1,500 person clemency and 39 person pardon, and all of a sudden this historic single day pardon of beating the record of Barack Obama's 5 people over. But check this out of CNN basically justifying what Joe Biden is doing.
The interesting things is that Joe Biden was one of the supporters of a very controversial 1994 crime bill that is seen as having fueled mass incarceration. He himself has conceded that he felt, some regret about that. And so a lot of this historic number of pardons definitely kind of comes from a lot of that regret that he has expressed over his presidency.
But can we talk about the Hunter Biden thing? Because, of course, the news this week was that Anita Dunn had a former top staffer of his, very loyal, came out and said, well, she didn't oppose the pardon itself. She opposed the way it was, in which it was done.
Can we listen to part of what she said?
As we were in the midst of the president-elect rolling out his nominees, and in particular, in the middle of a Kash Patel weekend, kind of throwing this into the middle of it was exceptionally.
So yeah, folks, the real question is why now and all of a sudden? Where's this compassion coming from all of a sudden? But I want you guys to check out an individual in the press that asked Joe Biden's spokesperson the real question, and what do these 1,500, who are these 1,500 individuals who have been pardoned, or, 1,500 clemency, but who are these who are these people that you pardon and also part of this clemency? So check this out, family.
There were a couple recipients here, though. I mean, a judge who participated in a scheme that sent juveniles to for-profit jails, Medicare fraud, real estate fraud. I guess what I'm wondering is, was the crime that was committed also part of the criteria here? Or was it the mere fact where if you were somebody on home confinement, despite the crime you committed, but just the fact that you were on home confinement, you received a commutation?
So this is definitely related to the home confinement for COVID. Let's not forget there was the CARE Act of 2020, right? This is all connected certainly to that, and those are the individuals who had home confinement, and they successfully reintegrated into their families, into their communities, and that's the group of people, that category, if you will, that we were looking.
She never answered the question. His key question was this part of the criteria? It was a yes or no question. She basically dodged the question and said, obviously these are part of individuals that are reintegrating back in their families, but these are people that committed heinous crimes. A judge that definitely should be disbarred, and obviously this is personal gain over upholding the rule of law, right? The stance that Joe Biden had that no one's above the law, hypocritically, right? However, I want you guys to check out this last segment in regards of the press and Joe Biden's spokesperson.
Can we say accurately that the president looked at any of these applications?
What I can say is this president made this decision. This is the president that made the decision to move forward on this.
What was his involvement, though? Did they present him the applications?
I
and he
mean,
said
obviously
yes,
the
or?
president was presented from his team the granting the clemency, right, of these approximately 1,500 Americans and also the 39 that he pardoned. He was presented that by his team, and he made the decision. This would not have happened. We cannot forget, this would not have happened if the president didn't sign off on it, if the president didn't decide to move forward. And we can't forget what the president had.
Yeah, and we can't forget. It was a yes or no question once again. All she had to do was say, was Joe Biden looking at any of these individuals that he granted clemency to or pardon? We all know that Joe Biden, like I said, is not adequate. We know he wasn't looking through them 1,500 people and looking at them 39 people that he pardoned. Of course, obviously, he's going to sign off on it. It's nothing unique that Joe Biden's doing because any president has the power to pardon anyone they would like to, right? We done seen Donald Trump pardon people. And also, I want to show you guys the example that I said I was going to show you guys in regards of the disproportionately black folks that were being basically hounded by the 1994 crime bill that Trump actually granted this individual clemency on how bad the 1994 crime bill that Joe Biden did. This was the con of the 1994 crime bill, how black folks was disproportionately treated wrong. And Donald Trump said it himself. And this is Donald Trump fixing the mistakes and the ignorance of how Joe Biden was touting and advocating for this bill and standing strong and firm on this bill, but they never had processes or the right approach in regards of how to really implement things. They say things that are broad blanket things and they do things and they just flip flop on their answers, but they never really stand on business to integrate things that's efficiently and right for the American people. So check this out. There you go. And this is Ivanka Trump tweet. This was October 22nd, 2020. Donald Trump granted Duke Tanner clemency after 16 years in prison. Duke was sentenced to life for a first-time nonviolent crime because of Joe Biden's 1994 crime bill. We pray that you would do much good with your second chance, right? But Joe Biden is now saying all of a sudden he's compassionate. Oh, everybody in America deserves a second chance. Well, what happened to your three strike system 1994 crime bill? And you're letting go people that committed heinous crimes, such as a judge in prison giving kids to a juvenile system for profit, scammers, or murderers that committed heinous crimes. Heinous, right? Not to mention he won't pardon the January 6 people, though. Right? That's how I show you how biased it is. But I'm going to leave it right there, family. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed some video. If you got some vibe, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I said some video, or at least some segment of the video. You get what I'm saying. But I hope you guys got some value from it, which is most importantly what I really care about. And if you did, get this video a big thumbs up as a price of commission. On that note, family, love you guys. Peace.